The prairie wind carried dust and silence, broken only by the shuffle of boots and the crack of a man's voice. Anna lay on the ground, her cheek pressed into the dirt, her body trembling as heavy hands yanked her back to her knees. The insults came fast, sharper than the blows. Failure, curse, worthless woman, each word spat like venom. Around her, townsfolk watched with downcast eyes, none daring to intervene. Her 3 little girls clung together near the fence, their cries swallowed by the dry air. She tried to shield her ribs as another kick landed, pain searing through her body. The world spun, but she caught sight of her daughters, their small faces streaked with tears. For them she bit back a scream. She would not let them see her break. Yet deep inside, shame curled tight. 3 girls, 3 fragile lives she had given the world, and still it was never enough. Then the crowd stirred. Spurs clicked against the hard earth, steady and deliberate. A figure moved through the haze of dust, broad shoulders, weathered face, hat pulled low against the sun. Caleb. The rancher whose silence carried more weight than most men's fury. He stopped just beyond the ring of spectators, eyes fixed on the scene before him. Her husband's brother raised his hand for another strike, but it froze mid-air when Caleb's voice cut through. Rough, low, unhurried. That's enough. The man spat. This ain't your business, rancher. Caleb stepped closer, the leather of his coat brushing the woman's shoulder as he passed. His hand hovered over the revolver at his hip, not drawn, not yet. His gaze moved to Anna, then to the children pressed against the fence. You're coming with me, he said, the words flat as a hammer strike. The square fell into silence. Anna's heart stumbled. For a moment she thought she'd misheard. Men did not speak such words for women like her. She wanted to believe him, wanted to move, but fear pinned her still. If she rose, there would be consequences. If she stayed, she might not survive the night. Her husband lunged forward, rage twisting his face. She ain't yours to take. The revolver cocked, the sound sharp as lightning. Caleb's arm was steady, his eyes unreadable. The crowd stepped back, dust swirling in the gap. She's not yours to break either. The moment stretched, taut as a wire. Anna forced herself to her feet, legs trembling. Her daughters whimpered as she staggered toward them, gathering them close. Caleb reached out, not roughly, but with a firmness that brooked no argument, and guided them away from the circle of men. Shouts erupted behind them. Accusations, threats, the promise of blood. Caleb didn't look back. His stride was certain, as if every step had already been measured. Anna stumbled to match his pace, clutching the hands of her girls. Each heartbeat felt like stolen time. They reached the horses tied outside the saloon. Caleb swung one daughter onto the saddle, then the next, then the third. His hands were quick, efficient, practiced in a life of necessity. Finally, he lifted Anna, her bruised body stiffening under his grip, and set her behind the children. The warmth of his palm lingered on her arm for a breath longer than she expected. The sound of boots thundering after them snapped her back. Torches flared. Voices cursed. Caleb mounted his own horse and kicked hard. The animal surged forward, hooves pounding against dry earth. The town shrank behind them, swallowed by the dust of pursuit. Anna wrapped her arms around her daughters, pulling them close against the gallop. Wind tore through her hair, stung her eyes. Every jolt of the horse sent pain shooting through her bruises, but she clung to her children as if the force of her hold alone could keep them alive. Gunfire cracked. Splinters burst from a fence post beside them. She gasped. Caleb turned in his saddle, firing back without slowing, his face carved of stone. The pursuers shouted, their horses gaining ground. Hold tight, he barked. She did. The world narrowed to sound and motion, the scream of hooves, the hiss of bullets, the burning of her lungs. Anna prayed with each breath, though no words formed. Only a plea, let them live. At the edge of town the land opened into scrub and stone. Caleb veered sharply, leading them into the darker stretch of desert where the moon gave little light. The torches followed, flickering like hungry eyes. Another shot rang out, close enough to make the children cry out. Then Caleb wheeled around, his revolver flashing. 2 pursuers fell back, their horses skittering. Chaos rippled through the line of men, giving just enough room. "Don't look back," he said, voice rough with command. Anna buried her face against her daughter's hair. She obeyed. The desert swallowed them. The shouts faded, replaced by the howl of coyotes and the steady thunder of hooves. At last Caleb slowed, guiding the horses along a dry creek bed hidden by brush. His shoulders slumped, but his grip on the reins never faltered. He led them deeper into shadow, farther from the reach of the men who had claimed her life for too long. The night air chilled her skin. Pain flared in every bone, but she felt something strange rising inside her, something she had not known in years. Not safety. Not yet. But possibility. Beside her, Caleb's silhouette loomed, steady as the land itself. He had not spoken since those 4 words, yet they echoed louder than the jeers, the curses, the fists. "You're coming with me." For the first time, Anna dared to believe she might. And behind them, the torches still burned in the dark. The desert stretched endless beneath the pale moon, every shadow carrying threat. Caleb kept his horse steady, eyes scanning the horizon as if he could read the land by instinct alone. Anna swayed behind him, her daughters pressed close, their breaths shallow with exhaustion. Each heartbeat reminded her of how fragile this escape was, how a single mistake, a single misstep, could end them all. When at last Caleb slowed, he guided them into the hollow of a dry creek bed, hidden from view. He dismounted, boots crunching softly against the gravel. "Stay quiet," he said, his voice calm but edged with warning. Anna slid from the saddle, her legs nearly giving way. Caleb caught her elbow before she fell, steadying her without a word. His grip was firm, neither cruel nor soft, just enough to remind her that she wasn't alone anymore. The girls huddled together on a blanket he pulled from his saddlebag. Anna knelt beside them, brushing dirt from their faces with trembling hands. She expected them to cry, but they were too tired, their fear locked deep inside. She kissed their hair and murmured promises she wasn't sure she could keep. Caleb lit a small fire, the glow carefully shielded by rocks. He handed her a tin cup of water. She drank greedily, then passed it to her daughters. When she looked up, he was watching, eyes reflecting the flicker of flame. She bristled under the weight of his gaze. "Why?" she whispered. "Why what? Why help me?" Her voice cracked, the question pulled from years of silence. He stared into the fire. "Because I've seen enough broken things. Don't care to watch another." The answer struck her like a blow. She wanted to believe it, but trust was a stranger she'd long forgotten. Still, as the fire warmed her bruised skin, something inside her shifted. For the first time, she felt the faintest crack in the wall of despair she had carried for years. Hours later, sleep tugged at her children. She hummed softly until their breathing evened, then glanced across the flames. Caleb sat rigid, one hand on his revolver, his gaze fixed on the shadows beyond. He looked like a man carved from stone, but the lines around his mouth told a quieter truth: loss, loneliness, something heavy that never left him. Dawn came sharp and cold. Caleb kicked dirt over the fire, then helped the girls back onto the horse. "We keep moving," he said. "They'll come again." The trail was harsh, filled with jagged rock and thorn brush. Anna's body screamed with pain, but she forced herself onward, driven by the sound of her daughter's laughter when Caleb pointed out a jackrabbit darting between stones. The moment was brief, almost fragile, but it reminded her that her children still carried light inside them. By midday, dust rose on the horizon. Caleb's jaw tightened. "They're close." The chase resumed. Horses thundered behind them, gunmen hired by her husband's family, relentless and merciless. Caleb led them into an abandoned mining town, its wooden frames splintered, windows gaping like hollow eyes. "Stay low," he ordered, pulling her and the girls into the shadow of a collapsed saloon. Bullets cracked against the boards. Splinters flew. The girls whimpered, and Anna pressed them close, shielding their bodies with her own. Caleb moved with lethal precision, firing from cover, his movements sharp, economical. Each shot forced the attackers back, but they pressed on, their voices promising vengeance. A ricochet split the air near Anna's head. Terror surged through her chest. She looked down at her children, then back at Caleb, who was reloading with grim determination. Something inside her snapped. She would not cower anymore. Her hands shook as she reached for a fallen rifle. The wood felt heavy, foreign. She raised it, heart pounding, every breath a prayer. When one of the gunmen charged forward, she squeezed the trigger. The recoil jolted through her arms, and the man fell, his shout cut short. Silence followed, then chaos. The attackers reeled, their line broken. Caleb glanced at her, surprise flickering across his face, but he said nothing. Instead, he used the opening to drive the rest back, bullets ringing like hammers against steel. The survivors retreated, cursing as they vanished into the desert haze. The air smelled of gunpowder and fear. Caleb lowered his weapon, but his breath came ragged. Blood seeped through his sleeve where a bullet had grazed him. He staggered, and Anna rushed forward, catching his weight against her shoulder. "Sit," she commanded, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. He sank onto a broken step, his face pale but steady. She tore a strip of cloth from her dress and pressed it against the wound. His eyes closed briefly, then opened, meeting hers with quiet intensity. "You did what you had to," he said. Her hands trembled as she tied the cloth tight. The man who had saved her now depended on her strength, and the thought both terrified and emboldened her. For the first time, she wasn't merely surviving, she was fighting back. They rested until the sun began to set, the sky streaked with crimson. Caleb leaned against the wall, his breathing easier now. Anna sat nearby, her daughters nestled against her. She watched the horizon, no longer with despair, but with a fragile kind of resolve. When Caleb finally spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard. "You're stronger than you know." The words lodged in her chest, heavier than any insult she had endured, yet sweeter too. She didn't answer, not with words. Instead, she held her children tighter, her gaze steady on the road ahead. The mining town fell into shadow, but somewhere beyond, the future waited, uncertain, dangerous, yet hers to claim. For the first time, Anna dared to imagine it. Not as a beaten wife, not as a burden, but as a woman who had survived, who had chosen. The desert night closed around them, carrying the sound of coyotes across the vast emptiness. Caleb shifted, wincing but steady. She knew the fight wasn't over, the men who hunted them would return. Yet as the stars burned above, she also knew something had changed. She had lifted a rifle. She had protected her children. And she had looked her fear in the eye and pulled the trigger. The journey ahead would be long, but she would walk it. For herself. For her daughters. And perhaps, for the man who had spoken 4 words that had rewritten her fate. "You're coming with me." And now, she finally believed she could.